Hey YouTube, welcome back to Vintage on Vintage. I'm Steve, and today I'm going to share with you some cards I've been collecting picking up since the National. I meant to do this video a while ago, but it's been pretty busy. Since my last video, I took my wife on a surprise trip to Kennebunkport, Maine for 4 days, and that was right before Labor Day. We had a great time, but then we got back and family and I went up to Michigan for Labor Day for the long weekend, and then right after that, I got home. The next weekend, I flew out to California to do my annual fantasy football draft. This is my friend and I, it's our 44th year of doing the draft. So last 3 weeks have been busy. I have been buying a few cards on eBay and some stuff at an antique store. Most of it is inexpensive and a lot of it has no rhyme or reason, but I thought I'd share them with you anyway. So let's jump into some of the cards. The first card I want to share with you is this 1971 Bobby Bonds. And this one I actually picked up at the Basement Collection, right? So that, if you don't know, that was Dave Blue Jacket 66's father's collection. That, Mike Moynihan and JT were selling some of them, and it was a blast. I couldn't make the first auction, but I made the second one. And you're in there IMing with people other YouTubers and you're bidding on some cards. And I actually won this. I love the 71 set. I'm a pretty big Bobby Bonds fan. I mean, at some point, I think I'd like to do a little player profile on him because I think he's pretty underrated. I don't think he gets enough credit for being as good as he is. And, this one coming from Dave's dad's collection is even that much more special. As you can see, it's a beautiful card. So that's the first card I picked up. Then I went in Michigan, there's a couple antique stores I always go to. Excuse me. One of them always has a $1 to $2 boxes of cards. And I've never found anything I've liked. But this time I did find a few. I found this 1975 Rick Royschel Mini, which I think is a cool card. I think this was $2. It's well centered. It's in pretty good shape. Royschel was a pretty good pitcher in his day, so I grabbed that. Another $2 find that I loved is this 1969 A's Star. So it's Sal Bando, Bert Campaneris, and Danny Cater, and I just love this card. I love these A's uniforms, the way they look in this picture. I love the yellow border. I just think it's a cool looking card. And of some really good players, Campaneris and Bando were mainstays in that A's dynasty in the early 70s. So love the idea of grabbing this card. The last card in that box was this card, and it was $1. $1 for a 1981 Bruce Sutter Kellogg's 3D card. And this card's in fantastic condition. I mean, there's not a scratch on it. The cornering and the centering looks pretty solid. Sutter's a Hall of Famer. I like the Kellogg's cards. It was $1, so I grabbed it and did not look back. In the case next to that one, the first card that caught my eye was this Connie Hawkins. 1972. I've been looking to grab a Connie Hawkins card. If you don't know about Connie Hawkins, he was Dr. J before Dr. J. He was an awesome player. While he was in college, he got caught up in a gambling scandal. Although he wasn't part of it, he was banned from the NBA. So he couldn't play in the NBA till he was 27 when he won a lawsuit that got him into the NBA. But in between, he played with the Globetrotters. He was in the ABL and the ABA. Then he eventually was led into the NBA, and he became a Hall of Famer. So big Connie Hawkins fan. The book Foul, I read that when I was younger. It's a great book. I would highly recommend it. It tells you a lot about life in the old ABA, and it tells you a lot about this guy. So was happy to pick up this Connie Hawkins. For about $5, I picked up a 1970 Bobby Bonds. This card reminds me of when I was collecting as a kid. I have this card, not quite in this good a shape. I already told you I'm a Bobby Bonds fan, so I was happy to grab that card. And then they also had this card, and I think this was like at $8 for a 1970 Denny McLain. And Once again, I have this card, but this one's a little nicer shape. This is my favorite McLean card. You know, in 1970, I think he was 24-6. And it was his second consecutive Cy Young season. So, you know, he was really solid pitcher in the late 60s for a few years. Ran into some injuries later in his career, and then, you know, eventually he had some legal troubles. But for a time in the 60s, for a 2 to 3 year span, this guy was as good as it gets. I saw this card, this 71 Bob Lilly card. And last time I was there, I picked up a different Bob Lilly card. You know, and I told you a little bit about it. He's an 11-time Pro Bowler, 8-time All-NFL. This is in really good shape. I think this was $11 for this card. Bob Lilly is an all-time great, so I was excited to grab that one. And then the last antique card pickup that I had was this 1970 John Unitas glossy card. You know, I showed you the OJ I picked up at the National from B. Roth at his table. This one, I just learned to love this set. I love the coloring on this set. It's just cool, the rounded corners. So picked up the Johnny Unitas, big Unitas fan. I want to keep adding Unitas cards to my collection. And then I went, I've also been buying on eBay, and I've been looking for cheaper slabs that just catch my eye, no real rhyme nor reason. And the first one I grabbed was this 1966 Richie Allen, and I love this photo of Allen. This is probably my favorite photo of Richie Allen. You know, it's a beautiful card. It's only a 3, but, you know, I think it just looks fantastic. And I was happy to grab it. I think with shipping and tax and everything, I think I got this thing for like $12. So I was pretty happy to grab this Richie Allen. I think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame someday. This card I picked up was this 1974 Pete Rose. You know, I love this picture of Pete. This is a card I remember from my childhood having. I do have another version of this ungraded that I was going to grade. It. I think it would have graded in the 5 to 6 range, but this one was on sale. And when I picked it up, I think with tax and shipping, it was in the $28 range. So I love this card. I've got quite a few Pete Rose cards, and I was happy to get this one, a slab version, in my collection. This 1968 Louis Tiant, excuse me, I couldn't take my eye off this when I saw it, and it's just a beautiful card. It's a 7.5, but I can't see any flaws in it. It's a gorgeous card. I'm a big Tiant fan. I think he's another player that's deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. I will tell you that the reason I like this card too is it's 1968, and this was Tiant's best year in the majors. He was 21-9 with a 1.60 ERA. You know, unfortunately for him, that was the same year that Denny McLain won 31 games, I believe. And Bob Gibson over in the National League had a 1.12 ERA. But any other year, and he would have easily been the Cy Young Award winner. But this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous card of Louis. I saw it. I could not bid on it, and you know, I got it pretty reasonably. I think all in probably in the mid-30s, and I was glad to grab it. Then I picked up this card, which I'm really excited about. It's the 1964 Sandy Koufax in a 2.5, and you know, when you look it up close, the corners have some issues, but when you look at it from this distance, it's just a beautiful card. It's you know, not too badly centered, little off, but it's a great Koufax card. I think all in it was like $45, $48 for this card. You know, I'm a big fan of Koufax's. I think his cards, I think Koufax and Willie Mays cards are only going to go up. So I'm trying to add both of those guys to the collection whenever I can. So I was excited to grab this Koufax card. This card, the 1961 Al Kaline in a 6. This card is just beautiful. Like, you tell me what's wrong with it. It looks beautifully centered. The corners are fairly sharp. It's a great picture of Mr. Kaline. Love this card. I just was watching it, and when it came time to put the bid in, I did. I think I got this card for around $50, and maybe 51, and it's a beautiful K-line. So I was happy to grab that card. I told you that I'm looking to add some Willie Mays. Well, I found this 1960 Willie Mays All-Star on an auction, and I was able to win it, and I just think it's a good looking card. It's a 1960 in a 4.5 of Mr. Mays. Was excited to win this card. Once again, I think Mays and Koufax cards are undervalued still, and I think like some of the players I talked about earlier who are going to get into the Hall of Fame, I think these guys are a good purchases now. But I'm not buying it to resell it. I'm buying it for my collection. Mays was just one of those guys that, as a kid, you looked up to. So grab this Willie Mays card. And then the final card that I picked up this 1961 Sandy Koufax in a 5. This is just an absolutely beautiful card. I can't tell you how excited I was to grab this card. It's centered really well. The corners aren't too bad. When you look at the back, looks pretty good. So this one's a beauty. Koufax, like I said, I'm trying to get as many of his cards as I can. So I was happy to pick this up. I think this one was $100 with shipping and tax. So, it wasn't cheap, but I think it was a pretty good deal for a really beautiful card. So that's it. That's what I've been doing since the National. I've been pretty busy traveling, and I've been all over the board picking up cards. I think I'm trying now. I think I'm going to just try to take a little break from buying cards for a bit to try to focus where I want to go next. But I wanted to share these with you. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. I'd love to hear your comments. Love reading comments, so I appreciate anybody who takes the time to make a comment. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Otherwise, stay safe, keep collecting, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.